Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite subject, pricing. I'd say 50% of the questions that I get about art and business revolve somewhere around, what should I charge for this? And I think the best way to show you is just to show you examples of some of my past projects and what I've charged for them or what I would have charged for them, what I should have charged for them. And this is spawning off of a Instagram post that I recently did on my Instagram. So if you follow me, you probably have already seen it and you've seen that it got a lot of traction and created a lot of conversation. And I got a lot of feedback on it saying from people that it's super, super helpful. And so I am going to be showing you today on this screen examples of the exact Instagram posts that I made with dollar amounts and just the whole thing. So if you are just listening to this, if there's any way that you could jump over to Spotify or YouTube, I have both Spotify and YouTube linked on Apple Podcasts and all the things. If you want to just like glance at it every once in a while, just to see what I'm looking at, or just so you could look at what I'm describing, that might be really, really helpful as we're going through this. Because I'm going to do my best to describe it, because I love podcasting because you can just listen while you paint, so we can do two things at once. And I really hate actually watching videos of people talking. I would much rather just listen. But this is one where I'm going to have examples on the screen. So if you want to take a minute, this is going to totally tank my Apple Podcast stats or whatever. But that's why I have YouTube, and Spotify has video. So if you want to check that out, I think it would be very helpful. So I'm going to put it on the screen right now. And if you're watching the video, you can see that I have an example, and I'm going to try to do my best to describe this, of a mural that is a pretty simple design. It is partial coverage. It's on an interior flat wall. And this took me about one full day to paint. And I charged $20 per square foot. So surprise, surprise, with this, I'm going to be going up from $20 per square foot to $25 to $30, all the way up to $65 plus, with examples of mural projects that I've done. So check out the screen. And again, I'll do my best to describe, but I think just seeing photos of this helps. And when I posted this on Instagram, I fully expected some people to say, that's too cheap. And I fully expected some people to say, you're not charging enough. And I got both of those, which is so funny. But it also just goes to show you, it's really up to us, and like it's up to me what I charge. No matter what I charge, somebody is going to think that is way too expensive or that is way too cheap for my skill level. And they're both right and wrong. And just to preface this, I live in pretty much small town Missouri, so in the Midwest, where the cost of living is extremely low. I think Missouri is like the second to last cost of living standard, or just rate. Like housing is pretty cheap here relatively. If you ask people who live here who have never traveled, they will not say that. But in general, things to live here, just buy groceries and all the things, it doesn't cost as much as it does in other places. And so a lot of my work reflects that. Yes, I work for businesses who can afford a lot more sometimes. And then sometimes I work for businesses who are mom and pop shops who can't afford hardly anything. And so I'm just going to take this off real quick, but while I just explain this, but it depends on who you're painting for. If I'm painting for a big company, like I was in this example photo, I can charge more for that because they have the budget. They can afford it. Whereas if I go to charge this exact same amount for this exact same mural for a mom and pop shop that's just opening up a place to sell snow cones, they're going to balk at the price and they're going to order a vinyl that costs not very much and they're going to move on with their life because they just can't afford that even sometimes even at $20 per square foot, which I think is the baseline. If I were to pitch a mural like this in the town that I grew up in, which is Wheatland, Missouri, which they have an even lower cost of living there, or just what they think that art is worth there is a lot lower than even where I live, and just outside of Springfield, Missouri, which was considered like the city where I grew up in, which is by far not a big city at all. But anyway, it just depends. Okay, I'm going to go out to the next one. This next example, it differs from the first one in that it is full coverage. It is still a pretty simple design. Looking at it, I probably used about 3, maybe 4 different colors, predominantly 3: light pink, dark pink, yellow. And it's still on an interior flat wall. And I priced this at about $25 per square foot. To me, there's a huge, huge difference. If my brush with the paint is going to touch the entire wall and not just sections of it, meaning it is full coverage and not just partial coverage where I'm just adding some black to an already white painted wall. If it's full coverage, it's worth more. And this one in particular, I don't think I actually charged $25 per square foot for this one. I think it was a mom and pop shop. No, I know it was a mom and pop shop that they were opening up their smoothie place. It's like they sell it says on here, it says Bowl Behavior in Bolivar, Missouri, which is actually right in between where I grew up and where I live now. So about 45 minutes away from me right now, and small town Missouri. And they're opening up their second location, and they sell like healthy bowls of like acai and stuff like that with fruit and whatnot. And they wanted a statement piece. And I had actually painted in their previous location that they opened up in Springfield. And I want to say I charged them about $3,000 for that first wall. No, 2,000. I don't remember, obviously, somewhere around there. So this second one was a bit bigger. I don't know that it took me any more time because the last one it just had a lot more small details. But I hired somebody on to help me with this one so I could get it done in a day, I believe. And I had me and actually 2 other people out there so we could get it done in a day. This was actually my first mural that I did after becoming a mom, or one of them. Man, it's so hard to remember, but I remember, maybe it was. No, it was the first one. And I remember showing up to this mural and I was so excited because I was able to paint pink. And I showed up, and the couple, they were super nice. Like I said, I had worked for them before, and I was like, "Hi, yeah, I'm here. This is the first day away from my baby." And they're like, "Anyway, so we want this." And I was like, "They don't even care. This is that I'm dying inside." Like, I left my baby home with my husband for the first time for a full day, and I had to like breast pump milk in their bathroom and keep it in a cooler and everything. And it was a monumental moment for this one. And I should have probably charged way more, but I charged $25 per square foot. And, a lot of times I feel like I charge based on other projects, right? I had in my head, okay, I charged this for the last time I painted for them. Last time I painted for them was a year and a half prior. I charged this amount. This one's a little bit bigger, but it's not as detailed. And so I kind of based it on that. I based it on what the customer was expecting to pay. And I don't know that that's the best way to do it. Especially, we can kind of find ourselves in like getting ourselves in a hole, like digging our own hole in this. And that if we paint for somebody really early on in our career and say like I painted them for like $500 or something, the second time, if I'm painting something similar and it's 4 years later, it's really hard to justify charging a lot more because they're like, wait, you painted this for $500. And it's like, well, that's when I actually didn't realize like what this was worth. And so that situation comes up sometimes. And the way that I handle that, I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but I think it's a good thing to hit, is I just explain to them that I do charge a little bit more. And as long as it's worked out ahead of time, and I think having the conversation in person or on the phone and just saying, okay, this is worth this much, and just saying that and then seeing their reaction. I don't know that I would go ahead and explain, hey, I charged you this much last time, so this is a lot more because I charge a lot more now. I don't know that I would go into that. I would just say, this is how much this is, and wait for them to ask questions. Don't go in thinking, like I have in the past, thinking that they're going to be like, oh, this is this much. Like they might not remember. Or if they do remember, they're going to be like, they'll say it. They'll say it right then, which is why we don't email prices like this. If there's any kind of like, you think there's going to be any friction, if you think there's going to be any friction at all with price, either FaceTime call, meet in person, or telephone call, something to where you can instantly rebuttal that thing really quickly. Because then what's going to happen if I were to just send out a text or an email quote and I really wanted the job, I would spend until they respond in my head arguing with them or just going back and forth on what are they going to think? Oh my gosh, like this and that. And so if it comes up to where you've realized you charged way too little in the beginning and now you're wanting to charge the actual rate, like say you watch this and you're like, I am drastically undercharging for everything. And you're like, okay, I'm going to charge a little bit more. And it's to a repeat customer. Just do this. Just give them the price and then let them ask questions. That's my biggest advice for that. Okay. So going back, that was $25 per square foot. So going on to the next one, this is a mural that I did for Culver's, and it's on an exterior slat wall. So, there's like slats of wood that are stacked up against each other that make painting a straight line just a big headache. Not the worst. It's not corrugated metal, but it's like exterior slatted wood. It adds time, right? It's a simple design. It just is the Culver's logo with the little ice cream man. And then I think there's 4 colors in it: dark blue, light blue, white, and orange. And overall, pretty simple, kind of cartoony. All you really need to do is just copy an image and make a straight line, and it's good to go. Even though this is super simple, this one I think still took me, I think it was maybe 2 days. And I had to go out and project the night before, which I don't do anymore because I have the Apple Vision goggles, and I'll talk about that in next week's episode and show you everything. But even though it's a pretty simple design, I still charged about $30 per square foot. And I remember what I charged for this one. I did this one, this was the summer after having my baby. And so they just stick out in my mind a lot more. Like if I was leaving my house, it was going to be for a decent amount. And I had a friend come out and help me. And I want to say I charged about $3,000 for this, or $3,500, something like that. And they balked at it. They balked, like Culver's, it wasn't like the big company Culver's, like they're all franchised, right? So the franchise person who owns per Culver's, they usually own one or multiple, usually multiple. But so I was dealing with them, and I got introduced to them by a friend. Like I knew the brother really well of the one who owned anyway, and his brother owned this one. And so that's how that came about. But I gave them a quote and they were like, oh, okay. Like I'm like, no, this is what it is. And then they agreed. But it's so funny. I say that though, because even a big company, and they see big numbers, even they will balk at it sometimes. And I was just in a position to where, I just had a baby, and this is when I started to really charge really well and really for my time. And I just held my ground. I was like, yes, this is what it costs. And they went with it. But I want to say, if I was any younger or more inexperienced, and I really wanted that because who doesn't want to paint for Culver's and have that on your resume? I probably would have been like, oh, okay, well, I can maybe do it for like 2,000 or something. But I was like, no, this is what it is. And it was so worth that because I remember it being out in the heat, and it's just, this is 100% worth it. Moving on to the next one. This one is an American flag that I have painted multiple times, and the same one. I remember painting that American flag on a different wall. So this is about a, I don't know, what do you say, 10 by 10 foot, maybe, American flag waving. I want to say I painted the first one about 8 years ago in this exact style, and it turned out really well. And so since then, I have painted this exact style of American flag probably 7 times on different barns, on different walls, on different backdrops with lettering on top of it. Like, this is my go-to because I know how to do it really well. I really like how it looks, and the customers always really love it. So needless to say, I knew what I was doing coming into this. So it's a realistic American flag waving with "Thank you, veterans," so lettering at the top. And again, lettering is no big deal for me. It doesn't take very long. It's just coloring in the lines, making straight lines. No big deal. I mocked this up beforehand, projected it onto the interior wall. It's a flat wall, and so there's realism in there. However, it's minimal colors. So even though it is a realistic flag, it really doesn't take me a long time to do this, but I still charge $30 per square foot. And you want to know something crazy? A little bit of back end on this. The owner of this store actually died before he paid me. So I was never paid for this. Isn't that crazy? I don't really know what to think of it, just other than that's like a super sad situation and something I never thought that I would deal with. So I ended up, there's another girl in the photo, and I paid her to come out and help me, and then just never got paid for the job. And definitely should have. I think I ended up actually charging about $1,500 for this wall. This was before I knew better, like before I knew what charging for a mural really well was. And so if I were to do it now, I'd probably charge more, like $2,500 for something like this. Again, about a 10 by 10 foot wall of, well, I guess 10 by 10. I don't know. I need to do math on these to figure out if that's actually square foot, but whatever. I really, again, like, I just look at a wall and I think this is worth that. And that's all based on everything that I've done prior. And just, I don't know, in order to make up this post on Instagram and this slideshow for you, I just kind of guessed. I was like, this seems about right, or this is what I want to charge for it. Did I actually charge that for this specific thing? No, but this is what I want to charge. And I've been wanting to make a post like this for a long time, but I didn't want to just expose what my customers have paid for it. Like, I really wanted to make a post that says, murals that fall in the 1,000 to 2,000 range, and murals fall in the 3,000 to 5,000 range. But I didn't want to put the actual murals on there because then people aren't going to do math. They're just not. I don't even do the math when doing this. And so this is a really good way, I think, for us and myself to share pricing demonstration without just outright saying this is $2,000. Okay, so going on to the next one. Okay, so this one I did not include on Instagram. So if you are watching the video, if you want to look over, it is a very simple design, multiple colors on an exterior brick wall. And it's actually a Lego inspired mural that we painted big Lego blocks on the outside of a YMCA. And I put $30 per square foot on here. But the craziest part, I actually didn't get paid for this one either. It wasn't a crazy story. I expected not to get paid. This is when COVID just hit and everything kind of shut down for a little bit. And I wanted to do, it was so the YMCA is a charity organization, like a nonprofit. And I met somebody who knows somebody through them, and they're like, hey, we really want a mural. And I didn't have anything going on. And so I was like, okay, well, how about we just, you guys pay for supplies, and then I just go get out there and do that. and my husband's in the photo with me, and we got out there, and it was really good content for video. I use this in my introductory video to my business because he got his drone out there and got some really good drone shots of using the lift. And we also got the lift donated as well from Sunbelt. I just want to say Sunbelt. So your local Sunbelt, my local one, they donated the lift, and I've been using them ever since because they donated that lift. I was like, thank you so much. This one, I think I accidentally used, this is a little bit before like I really knew what I was doing. And I used a mix of oil spray paint and acrylic. So I did some oil and then I did acrylic on top of it. And then I think some oil on top of that, or I don't know. I mixed it in a certain way and I wasn't even thinking that you're not supposed to do that. And whoops. And so the mural started to come off after just a couple years. It started to look not that great. So now I know, don't use acrylic on top of oil. Exterior, right? I've used it interior and it was fine, but exterior with all the elements, it can be, yeah. So I didn't share this one on Instagram, not because of the backstory or anything about that. This mural actually isn't there anymore. They actually power washed it all off. Somebody else bought the building. It's not the YMCA anymore, and it's not even there. But it was at a time where I really wanted to do art in public, and it ended up getting me a interview on the news. I got a lot of video content from it. Like, it was still something that I did. I just put in free labor in order to get things out of it, but not necessarily paid. But I put $30 per square foot on here because it is so simple, but on brick. And I don't know. I'm just making this up, guys. You can make it up too. And this is not like a complete just rule that if it is a simple design with multiple colors on an exterior brick wall, then it needs to be $30 per square foot. No, it's not. Really, I do have a rule system that I use sometimes, and it's our mural pricing calculator that we use within the Artist Academy. So it's a link that you go to once you're in the Artist Academy membership. You go to the mural pricing calculator and you put in a variety of things. It's not just texture surface. It's where do you live? It's how many details are in it? Is it partial or full coverage? It's like the whole thing, and it spits out a price at you. And you can start from there. And oftentimes I'm finding whenever somebody comes in the academy and they're like, what should I price with this? I'll give them the link and I'm like, hey, what does the mural pricing calculator say? Let's start there. And it's usually way higher than people think, because I think we're all undercharging. Most of us. Okay, so some of us, that don't need any help charging, and there are people like that. But I think the majority of muralists, including myself for a long time, and sometimes even still, I think we have a hard time pricing and making it a big number and making it really worth our time, because we don't take into consideration all the back end stuff of taxes and then the time designing and then just all of the things. We're scared to charge that much because we don't think about the rest of it. And also I think a lot of it too is we think, who the heck am I to charge that much? We don't really think of it as the benefit to the business, or we've just had people lowball us for so long and you're scared to charge. You don't want to rip somebody off by charging the right amount. And so this mural pricing calculator, I put it in there to say, no, this is pretty spot on to what you should charge. Although there is a bit of leniency whenever I am painting something that's really, really big. Usually the pricing is a little bit less per square foot. If I am painting something really small, like a 4x4 foot mural, if you could even call that a mural, I'm painting way more per square foot than I would a giant one. There's that. So that's another reason why this is not a rule of what you should charge. These are just examples. Okay, another one. I have a mural here that is a black and white mural. It's a very detailed design on an interior white wall. And I basically used marker for this. This is a map inside of a campground office area here in Missouri, and they wanted their whole campground lined out and with trees, and the cabins, and then all the different things that they had to offer there. And it was pretty fun. I liked it a lot. It was like drawing. And I learned on this one the hard way to not use marker that is washable. What is that called? Archival. Yeah, because some water got spilled and I had to go fix it. And so how we fixed it was we put varnish over the whole thing, and that sealed in the marker, which you had to wait for it to dry and then had to do layers of spray varnish, and it was a thing. But anyway, back to the pricing. I would charge $35 per square foot for something like this. I am not big on doing a bunch of small details. I would rather just have my big brush out there, making big motions, covering a lot of area really quickly, and blending things really quickly. I'm not big on spending a lot of time in details. And so I charged $35 per square foot for this one. But if you are somebody and you like to do something like this, feel free to put $25 per square foot or whatever. If you don't like to do realistic scenes and it's going to take you forever because you're not as super experienced, mark that shit up. Like sometimes I'll put things that I really want to do in a really affordable price range. Things that I really want to get hired for, that I want an easy yes on, I'll put in a very affordable price range so that people will easily say yes. And I know I'm not the only one that does this. Like, if I will paint a lot of tiny details, but you got to pay me for it, and it's got to be worth that. This one is a semi-realistic detailed design painted on Polytab. It is of the Santa Ana Mountains in California. And it has medium amount of colors. This is something that I can do pretty easily. This is a semi-realistic landscape scene. When it gets down to the super realism stuff, painting trees and grass, that can just be kind of mind-numbing for me. But this like semi-realism, I think it's a really good medium ground when people want something really realistic, but they don't have the budget for it. I'll say, well, I can make it semi-realistic. You're not going to be able to see all the tiny details, but it's still going to look a lot like the picture that you're giving me, especially from far away. And they'll say, oh, great, blah, blah, blah. And it's also just my out to not have to paint a million freaking grass blades and be able to get out of there quickly. I really like when a project takes me less than a week. If it takes me more, I get a little bored with it. And so yeah, there's that. But this one, like I said, it's on Polytab. And the question that I get asked all the time is, where can I buy Polytab? Right? Or how do I get it? And anybody that comes to our mural meetups, I have a full roll and I say, hey, does anybody want it? It's $5 for 5 foot by 5 foot square. And you could just take it home with you, roll it up, whatever. So $5 for a 5 by 5 foot, like pretty good deal. And I can do that because I buy it in bulk through QST. So I think it's QST.com. And so T as in Tom. And you can buy it there. It's $600, including shipping and freight, for I want to say it's like 1,000-yard roll. Yeah, it's huge. It lasts me forever. I use this whenever I want to do transfers. I use this when I do Polytab stuff. I give it away almost. Well, I sell it for basically a little bit over, barely over what I paid for it at the mural meetup, so people can try it. And yeah, I really like it. I like having more than I need, though, because this stuff doesn't go bad. I know I'm going to need it in the future, and I just bought my second big roll. So I went through the first one already in about 2 years, and I have my next one. And Polytab is really great for if you want to paint something in the studio, but you want to install it on site. Some people will use this to say you're doing a really detailed landscape scene on site and you can't go in that day, or it's raining or whatever, but you need to paint a fox. You can paint it on Polytab and then cut it out and then adhere it to the wall outside or inside, doesn't matter. And just like wallpaper. If it's outside, you use a Nova gel. That's what I use to secure it on there, and just make sure that when you use that Nova gel, you use so much. It's white, but it dries clear. You seal all the edges with that gel. So that way it really truly sticks, and no water, nothing can get underneath there to start eroding it and come off, because it will, because I've tried that and now I know better. And yeah, Polytab. Everybody, I get so many questions on this. So if you have some questions, just ask, but those are the main ones. Where do I get it? You could buy it in bulk from qst.com, or there are several other places online to where you can get it. But if you don't want a giant roll, you can get it pre-primed. You can get it to where you already have your image on it. So it's an easy transfer, and you can get it to where you can buy much smaller quantities. I don't know where, because I've never done it, but if you just Google, I'm sure you will find it. So Polytab. And then I've installed it on interior walls, and you basically just install it like wallpaper. I had never installed wallpaper prior to this, but you just get wallpaper putty, or if it's a really big job and you're painting a really big one, just like the one that I showed you, I actually shipped that one off to be installed in California, and they did it for me. So that was nice. They had professional wallpaper installers do it. But if you have a really big one that you want to install, I think hiring professional wallpaper installers is the way to go. And they charge a lot. They charged me, I want to say like $2,000 to install for a full day on this really big area. And I was like, I need to charge more. I need to charge more to paint this thing. Oh my gosh. So if that's not something that make you charge more, like just go look at other industries of what people charge. White wall painters charge like $35 an hour around my area. So you should be charging more. This next one is a giant tiger coming out of the wall, coming out of like a cement interior wall in a gym. I've talked about this on the podcast before in previous episodes. This was also one of the first ones that I painted as a new mom. And I want to say I charged about $4,000 for this one, maybe $4,500, something like that. And we painted it in a day and a half, 2 days, but I had a couple helpers with me. Like I said, I wanted to spend as little time away from my baby as I could. So I had a couple people with me, and we used a spray gun to paint the majority of that. Anyway, I was able to do it really quickly, but I charged about $40 per square foot, I think. I don't know. I just told you what I charged for it. I put that I charged $40 per square foot online on my Instagram, because I just didn't want to come out right and say, hey, I charged $4,500 for this. So I just said $40 per square foot. But that's about what it was worth. And then they provided the lift as well. I just got the paint. And then this next one, it is the last one. You've probably seen it before if you follow me on Instagram. If you haven't, it's an underwater scene with a realistic shark and a sunken ship and fish and the whole thing. And it's pretty realistic. This is one where I was super proud of this when I painted it. It was one of the first realistic scenes that I had painted, and it was in Vancouver, right outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And it was one that I was up there sweating. I was sweating for what I was doing. But nowadays, if I were to paint something like this, I'd charge about $65 per square foot. And I think when realism comes in, I think that's such a skill that not a lot of people have. And so when that's there, or when somebody is wanting something realistic, they need to pay for it, because there's not a lot of people around my area or whatever that can also do this. And so I'm pretty confident when I say, this is going to cost this much. If I want to scapegoat it and say, I don't want to spend a ton of time on the details, like I said, I'll opt for a semi-realistic look. And I think more people can do that. But if somebody truly wants realism, I will charge for it, because it does take time. And it's fun. And it makes a really good Instagram video and photos and all the things. It's really good Instagram content. So anytime somebody has the budget for this, I will do it. And I made a whole podcast a while ago about if somebody doesn't have the budget, I'm not going to give 100%. And that this is what I mean. This is the time where somebody had the 100% budget and I gave 100% of my efforts. I will make things as realistic as I can. I'll spend as much time as I can to make it perfectly match their vision. But if somebody doesn't have the budget for this, then I just won't. And it's pretty often, especially here in Missouri, that people do not have this kind of budget. Or they realize, oh, this isn't what I want. I could have something a little bit cheaper with a semi-realistic style. But anytime somebody does, it is a great day. And I'm always having fun with it. Not always, but sometimes. Anyway, okay. That is all I have for you today. I hope that maybe, people just listening to this didn't get a headache or could really understand what I was saying when I'm describing these things. And if you haven't, you can go over to my Instagram and see them, or hop on the YouTube and Spotify. But if you watch the video, man, I think this is the one time where podcasting video really comes in handy, because I can show you exact examples. And stuff like this is what I do inside of our Artist Academy membership. I have tons of videos showing you examples, showing you how to paint an American flag. Actually, that American flag that you saw, I show people how to paint it in a video inside the Academy. So if you saw that and you're like, I can't do that, I bet you can. I actually bet you can, because I show you how to mix the colors. I show you how to do the lines. I show you what step by step I use in order to paint it in just a day. And you just have to paint one, and then everybody's going to love it. You're going to paint 7 of them in the course of 8 years. So yeah, if you have enjoyed this, especially the video portion, I want to invite you to join our Artist Academy membership, because all the content in there is just like this, showing you examples. And how much more beneficial is that than just listening to it? Yeah, I talk about pricing. You have the Mural pricing calculator inside the membership, the whole thing. All right, that's all I have for you today. Next week, I'm going to do something around the Apple goggles. So another visual element to it. I think you're going to like it. The Apple goggles versus the projector and all of that. I am really loving it, by the way. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. I so appreciate you tuning in every week, and I would also appreciate if you could do me a very small favor and possibly share this episode either on social media. You can tag me, or even just write me a note in my DMs saying what you liked about the podcast, what you want to see more of, anything. I love getting any and every feedback, especially in the form of a review, 5 stars only. That's all we accept on Apple or Spotify. And just any kind of positive feedback whatsoever. It really makes everything worth it. Me sitting down to create this absolutely free podcast full of art and business content. And I also wanted to throw this out there that if you are not where you want to be currently in your art business, if you're stuck at a boring job that just sucks the creativity out of you, and you don't have time to paint, and you're wanting to go full time with some kind of way of painting or murals or something, anything other than where you're at, trust me, I know the feeling, and I know how much it can affect the rest of your life, and I know what's on the other side of it. There's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of tips and tricks in the middle, but that's why I created the Artist Academy membership. It's only $37 a month, and it takes artists from aspiring or beginner to full-time and up to 6 figures. I've helped more artists than I can count or think of at the moment quit their jobs and go full-time into painting, and I can help you too. It's such a crazy, confusing, tough time, especially in that first year. That's why I specialize in helping artists within that first year of business, because that's the hardest part, taking the first step, figuring out how to get those first couple clients, and then we work from there. I've helped multiple artists reach even the 6-figure mark, and I can help you too. If you're ready to make 2025 the year that you finally go full-time into the creative industry and make good money with your art, and I want to invite you into the Artist Academy membership to view my over 100 plus art and business tutorials. There's everything from how to paint large scale to how to make a marketing plan for this year. And every single month I update it with new content of what's working right now, what's working on social media, what are the things that I'm doing, specific things with templates, with email scripts, with all the things that you need that you just go right over the headache of it all, and I just give it to you, and you make it your own, and you grow your own unique art business the way you want to. Inside the membership, I open up my business and show you what I'm pricing per job, how the job went, what I learned from it, how I got that customer, and how I'm repeating that over and over again to build a 6-figure plus consistent art business for the last 10 years. I think I've been doing this for about 10 years and teaching for almost 6 years. Crazy. So I've heard it all. I've heard all the excuses, all the hurdles, and I can help you through them. They say a mentor can see your future a lot more clearly than you can. That's why you hire one, because when you're going through the tough times and thinking that you can't do it, I'm here and I know you can, and I can help you get around that hurdle and reach to the next hurdle and then the next one. And then, yeah, so $37 a month. Go to artistacademy.co to join. There are no minimums. Cancellation is super easy. Stay as long as you want, gather as much as you want, and grow your business as much as you want this year. Go to artistacademy.co to join the membership.